So for the Denver Broncos, 2018, I guess they tried kind of a little. They improved a little bit of the quarterback position over previous day guys like Trevor Siemian by bringing in Case Keenum. But how much better were they really? If anything, it represents, if nothing else, a fear by John Elway to go draft another young quarterback after he had whiffed so horribly on Paxton Lynch and whiffed horribly before on Brock Osweiler. Um, but that's what they did. And predictably, the Broncos were just kind of mediocre last year. They weren't super terrible, but they weren't very good. Their defense wasn't as great as it once was. And you just kind of realize you were riding out the strings, the remaining remnants of the Peyton Manning era there in Denver. And the heat is kind of on John Elway. So in this offseason, he goes out there and brings in Vic Fangio to be his new head coach. And I got to say, from a fit standpoint, team that already runs the 3-4 with two studly edge rushers like Von Miller and Bradley Chubb. This was probably one of the best hires that John Elway could have possibly made. Now, how much is he going to allow Fangio to truly control the team and coach the team? How much is Elway going to interfere? How much is Elway going to muddle with things? Time will tell. But I did really like the hiring of Vic Fangio for this organization. The acquisition of Joe Flacco, eh. Like, when Joe Flacco went down with injury, weren't the Ravens a losing team, 4-5, and they're a better team than the Broncos currently stand? Like, what's the deal with wanting to go for the second and third rate veteran quarterbacks and thinking that they're going to get you by and they're going to do this? And I just really don't get it. I know Flacco has a big arm and he has size, but again, coming off of an injury last year and relatively mediocre play, his best days are probably behind him. What's the big deal about bringing in a guy like Joe Flacco? At least I can say is that he comes into the situation. You got Bowles protecting his blind side. You signed Jawan James in the offseason, so you're hoping your bookend tackles are pretty good. They invested a little bit of money on the defensive side of the ball. Kareem Jackson and Bryce Callahan, two secondary pieces that Vic Fangio can do business with, and Callahan, a guy that he's incredibly familiar with from their time together in Chicago. Very interesting that they didn't pursue Adrian Amos, but I guess you can't sign everybody or don't want to sign everybody. But for this Broncos team, there's still that element of if you can get that defense with some of the talent it still has to play up to a certain level, and you can run the ball like you did at times last year with your revelation of an undrafted rookie in Philip Lindsay, this is a team that can still be sniffing the playoffs. So maybe that's the mindset behind going after a Joe Flacco and not having previously drafted another rookie first rounder to replace Paxton Lynch. I don't know. But I mean, if you're gonna do something at the quarterback position, wouldn't you want to go after a better name than Joe Flacco? I don't know. Anyways, when it came to the draft, I liked what they did, being able to get Noah Fant at 20, who was a top 10 pick in my eyes in this draft cycle. Being able to trade back, get multiple additional picks, and still get a top 10 guy where they did, I thought was really, really nice work. Then being able to turn around, getting Dalton Risner, and then getting Drew Lock in round 2 when a lot of people thought that the Broncos might have high admiration for him and might want to take him at number 10. Not only did they not take him at number 10, they took him in the middle of round number 2, which eliminates any pressure for Drew Lock to have to come in and play well immediately or even play immediately at this point. He does get to sit and learn from Joe Flacco, and it probably is the best thing for him at this point in time. So in that sense, I like some of what the Broncos did. Draymond Jones in round 3, the defensive lineman for Ohio State, could become a Akeem Hicks type of player for Fangio in this 3-4 defense. I really like that selection for them as well. Looking at this Broncos roster and how it shakes out for them in 2019, what do I like about them? Their running game. Lindsey's a stud. Royce Freeman's, I think, a capable backup. I like what I perceive as a pretty nice 1-2 combination at the running back position. Going to be able to help protect Joe Flacco and keep some of the pressure off of him. On defense, obviously, I love the Von Miller-Bradley Chubb combination. Being able to get Bradley Chubb 5th overall, put him into this system, and have him be a double-digit sack guy right away, not much of a surprise to me. You've got arguably the best tandem of edge rushers in the National Football League. You most certainly could make that argument there. That's a great foundation to build off of with your defense. And then I really love Fangio coming in and being the defensive play caller here. Fangio is a great defensive mind. He's a great defensive play caller, and he has some talent to work with, like you saw in Chicago. His defenses, when they didn't have all the talent, played a little bit above themselves, but they weren't elite units. But you give him a little bit more talent to work with, you give him some elite-ish level talent, and he will make sure that they play at an elite level. I really like Vic Fangio's defensive play calling for this team and for their system, for their personnel. Some of the question marks I have: Joe Flacco, what are you going to get out of him at this stage of his career? 12th season in the league, coming off of injury, being disposed as a long-term starter in Baltimore. What's he got left in the tank? The run defense was bad last year, and it's going to have to get better if this team wants to think about getting into the playoff mix. And I'm not sure how much from a personnel standpoint they really added to say that they can feel like comfortable that they got a whole lot better against the run. Then I look at the receiving core. Emmanuel Sanders is at the tail end of it. Demaryius Thomas is gone. I think Cortland Sutton has a chance to develop into a nice player. Maybe you get more out of Deshaun Hamilton. Who knows? But when I look at it right now, maybe that's where Noah Fant comes in and eventually becomes that productive weapon. But the receiving core for Joe Flacco, And I don't know if any of those guys outside really possess the true vertical speed that you would like them to have with the arm strength that Joe Flacco has, the ability to really throw the ball down the field. When I look at the Broncos and their early schedule, first 3 weeks, they go to Oakland in week number 1 to face that mess of a team. Then they host Chicago, Fangio's old team, the Bears, in week number 2, and then go to Green Bay in week number 3. If the Broncos can get out of those first 3 games, 2-1, they've had a nice start. 1-2 might be okay as long as the 1 victory is against Oakland, because at least that's a divisional game. But you would like to, if you're a Broncos fan, see them either beat Chicago in week 2 along with beating Oakland, or beating Green Bay in week number 3. Not saying it will happen, but I wouldn't be that surprised if this team came up and played some people tough and got a couple of victories that would surprise some folks. I don't think they're going to be able to bang with the Chargers or the Chiefs in this division. No. And they're probably realistically a year away from really competing for a playoff spot. But there could be a team that's kind of on the outside looking in and getting close to that mix. I feel like 8-8 would be progress and a step in the right direction for this team, and realistic expectations for what you can expect the Broncos to do this year.